So, hello, Bernard Begin.
Got it
Thank
right.
you for joining today. We are going to have a chat about around beliefs. You are an unlearning coach. You're playing with that name. But I love the idea of that, of what unlearning is and how that can benefit us moving forward through life. So I'll hand over to you. Do you want to introduce yourself and let us know all about unlearning?
All about unlearning, eh? Yeah, my name is Bernard. This is a French Canadian, so that's why it's hard to pronounce Bernard Begin in French. Um, as you know, I just came up with that title, Unlearning Coach. I'm not a big on titles, uh, but yeah, I mean, unlearning for me, it just represents the essence, I guess, of what I do and what I think is one of the most important thing we get to do as an adult, wanting to find some freedom and relief and ease inside of us. I just find that we learn to be we learn to be a certain way. We learn to think about life, about people, about the world, growing up, and these learnings or conclusions we form, they tend to become beliefs that we have about life, and that belief tend to be well are located, I guess, in the more subconscious part of us, the more the part that is less accessible and runs automatically. Um, so I, I dove into this topic maybe a decade ago, where I wanted to find some freedom for myself to feel better. Had lots of resistance, lots of I wanted to do things, to achieve things. Um, and I felt tons of internal weight and unease, and I wanted to find some relief from that and be able to do what I wanted to do and feel how I wanted to feel and be myself. And I tried. By the way, if I'm going too long, just stop me. I'm just going to go for a little bit. So, and I tried a bunch of different things over the years, like all talk therapy, different modalities, energy modalities, NLP, studied NLP, and I got trained in it, hypnosis, like everything that's out there to create some change, some lasting change, permanent change. And I understood pretty early on that belief uh, was the needle that was gonna move it for me. So I was just okay. So if I can find how to change these beliefs, which really are like programs or subconscious programs that just run us and we don't even realize that affects how we think and how we feel. So I'm like, if I can just change that, I'm gonna be able to create whatever I want in my life, or at least feel however I want, or just be myself, or be authentic and be free and be feel good, basically. So I studied this for many years, trying to how to actually do this. And the last few years, I really feel like I got a good grasp of it, and now I've I've shed hundreds of beliefs for myself and for clients, for other people as well now, and it makes a huge difference in our experience of life.
So, is the work you do kind of bringing different modalities together, or have you kind of just forged your own understanding through it?
I mean, yeah, it's a little bit of both. I guess I just ended up taking the best of each thing that at least I found, um, and really whatever would work and reliably. Because what I didn't like about certain things is that you don't know if it works and it's not really reliable, it's not really repeatable. Things like affirmations, like you say that, but like how much do I need to say it like for a year before it sticks in? So for me, that never really worked or clicked or stuck with me. And hypnosis, I think, is a great modality. Uh, but what I Yeah, what I do now is very practical. It's very like logical, step by steps. I'm more of a head type guy, I guess, so that I like that approach that you can measure it, and you know we it's very precise. And uh, so yeah, it's a merge of different things that I've learned over the years that works well.
How many beliefs can someone have, do you think? Or like are some beliefs more important than others? Or are all of these small beliefs just as important as each other?
Yeah, tons of belief are in every area every areas of our life. So it's about people, it's about the world, it's about ourselves, it's about everything really. So I think we have thousands and thousands of beliefs. So it's
Wow.
not
Yeah.
about shedding all of them because I mean I think ultimately they help us mold our experience of life. So they create our experience of life literally. And I don't think the goal is to shed all of them. I don't know if it's possible either. Probably not possible. I don't know, maybe. But for me, like I like to be practical, so it's more like what belief is in the way of what I want to create today. Uh, so I work a lot with entrepreneurs, and for example, and they want to do things. Maybe they procrastinate, right? Or they had some fears, like fear of people, fear of being seen, uh, things like that. So we get practical about it. So we start from that. So what's the thing you would like to change? An emotion or behavior or a habit. So we start from that. So for example, uh, let's we go with like procrastination. Someone might want to do a podcast like we're doing today, but they feel resistance to doing it. Like it doesn't feel good, right? It feels tight. It feels contracting inside. So to help someone around that with beliefs, I would go and have the person maybe just think of doing it, think of recording a podcast with someone, right? And then he's going to share with me, oh, I feel this contraction inside, or, and then I'm going to have like, what thoughts and feelings do you have when you think about it? And those thoughts and feelings are what's going to guide us to what they must believe that is creating this discomfort or these fears underneath. So that's what I guess I'm interested in. That's what I want to identify, and that's what I want to help them free themselves from. And it can be it's different for everyone. Uh, I mean, there are like I don't know if trend is the right word. There are like certain beliefs that are very common to almost everyone, right? But there are also very specific ones for each of us. So it's about finding which belief for you are creating this pattern in your life. So unlearning those beliefs, and then when we know it worked when the person thinks about doing the podcast again, but doesn't feel this mess inside anymore. It just feels maybe neutral. It feels maybe even good or inspired or creative. Then I know we have addressed the right stuff. And yeah, that's like the essence of how it works. Is that
It's definitely something I've experienced is, and it's really hard to even compare, is how much my life used to be this complex feeling all the time that sometimes bubbled up and exploded in all different ways, to like now being calm, and then something might happen and then now I can actually, like, I notice, oh, this has happened, there's something there, there's something I need to look into. um and that maybe leads me into my next question, which is what we kind of said we would talk about a little bit. That was when I understood just how complex my trauma experiences had been, and everything that I had created in my life based around that. And then more so, that's how I knew I was coming to the other end of my healing, because I didn't feel all this stuff all the time about anything. So I'm just wondering if you can talk for a little bit about how complex um, our beliefs can be, and how they might be linked to lots of different experiences we've had in our lives. And how that might shape how we respond to the world and what we do or what we don't do.
Yeah, yeah. I think I talked about entrepreneurs before, but I think it's one of the best self-growth journey because it's very challenging. And sometimes beliefs don't get revealed until we encounter something that triggers them, right? So if we do the same life every day and don't stretch anything, don't do anything new, I mean, we're pretty comfortable in our belief system. It's not going to get triggered that much usually. But then when we want to do new things is when the stuff that we carry with us gets revealed to the surface. So we get those triggers coming in, maybe more. So when we want to do something new is when the stuff gets revealed. Um, yeah, I think it can be very complex. It's not always like the one domino effect where we change one belief and everything changes. Sometimes it's a clutter of multiple beliefs around a certain thing that we feel. Uh, so, yeah, I know what you mean. And CPTSD, I worked with someone that had that as well, a condition, I guess. And so there was lots of past trauma around created with, her upbringing in a very difficult circumstances. So there was lots of things to unlearn. It was multifaceted, definitely. So there could be beliefs around, trust and trusting people. Well, not trusting people, but not trusting yourself as well. That people are dangerous, people are unsafe. Um, the wall isn't safe. The wall isn't dangerous. Uh, those are just a few examples. I couldn't name all of them that we worked through, but there's a clutter of belief that has been formed, right? So sometimes it takes an amount of time to be aware of all these constructs and then sort of start peeling them down to create change inside. So yeah, it can be definitely complex, and there can be multiple angles at the same time. So sometimes things take a little bit more time when there's more complexity, more stuff, more layers. But I believe that it's just a matter of time, though. I think everyone can almost tailor their experience of life to be how they want it to be. Like at the core, I think we have this ability. I think we have tons of you know uh, anchored memories in us and anchored conditionings in us and beliefs in us. But it's so far it's been my experience that we can identify them and we can change them if we want to. And I said if we want to because sometimes we think we want to consciously, but subconsciously we don't really want it. So that means that there's a part of us that doesn't want us to change or doesn't want this change because it deems that it's not safe to do that. So sometimes we have to look for not this belief we want to change, but what's preventing this belief. So what's the subconscious objection to changing this belief? So what's the fear underneath this fear? And then we go there first, so that we can address the resistance to making this change in the first place. So I never want to force something into someone, and it wouldn't work anyway. We only work with what people want to change. So if they don't want to change it, either we don't change it or we just explore what could be in the way subconsciously of you changing that. Because we agree that if it changed that piece of the puzzle, their experience is going to be much better. So what's in the way of it? So we go like a couple layers deep sometimes, and then we work back up. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Do you think is that often like another belief underneath
Yeah, yeah.
the
Belief
overall
underneath the
belief?
belief. Yeah, yeah. A lot of relationship is a great area for that to explore for that because so many people want to meet someone, want to meet their life partner, their soulmate, whatever you want to call it. But they definitely have belief around that, like we all do, and I do as well. But beliefs that could be in the way of someone wanting to have a loving relationship with someone, an intimate relationship. If it's a woman that wants to meet a man, but then she deep down she believes that men are not safe, that men are not trustworthy, that men will hurt me, that relationships aren't safe, that relationship are dangerous. If deep down all this stuff is running, it's going to be very hard to to meet someone, in a peaceful way, in a good way, in a healthy way, because you're probably going to be on your guard. Like the woman's going to be on her guard all the time because she's not going to let the men be in. Probably she's going to want to protect herself, or she might sabotage it. So no, I'm just really in love with this work because it can help in any areas to create some freedom and allow for a different set of experience to happen. Really.
Yeah. How do we shape beliefs? Are they, I mean, you refer to them as programs, which I like because I often use that term as well, which is like it can be linked, isn't it, to like a stream of thought or memories and all that. Do you think all our beliefs come from, first of all, other people or childhood? Like, do they come from society or do they come from our parents, or are we born
Mm-hmm.
with beliefs? Like,
Mm-hmm.
how do we get them? Where, how do
Yeah.
they happen?
Great question. Very good question. So my experience is that we create them. Um, I don't think that we know at this point everything there is to know about this. Like, are some belief created already in the womb or even before that? But at least psychology tells us that most of our belief would be created in the first few years of our life. So by the time we're 3 or 4, we already have the core of our belief system already formed, right? So we haven't. By the time we talk, basically, we learn to talk. We have all this, most of our belief already formed, and we haven't even talked yet. So there's definitely stuff happening pre-verbal as well, uh, right? So we create conclusions even when it's hard to put words on it. It seems like. But it doesn't matter for me when I help people and learn them. It doesn't matter where they come from. What truly matters, to be honest, is that the person it resonates for the person. So if it seems to you that this was created when you were young at this age or with your parents, whatever, then it's gonna work, right? So and people might say it comes from past lives. I've worked with people and learned beliefs that would come from past lives, whether we believe in it or not, it works regardless. So that's what I like about it. So no matter where they come from, we can address them. And now how they're formed. Um, so like I said, we create them. So it's a conclusion that we form based on our interpretation of events. And usually it's not a one-time thing. It's not one event. It can be if it's really a traumatic event, really charged, then one event can be multiple belief can be created in just one event. I have one for me where it seems like I've created dozens and dozens of beliefs from it. Like I always refer back to it when I find a belief. It's like, oh, it's this thing, it's this thing, it's this thing. But usually it happens over a series of events, right? So, and a lot, like I said, and a lot in the first few years of our life. So the way that we're being parented early on, uh, we're a child and we observe, and we're crying, and we have no, our parents aren't around us, so we feel alone. We look around and we feel scared. So things are already happening at that level, right? Where belief can already be formed there. But yeah, so it's usually a series of events. So things that happen again and again and again and again. So the way that dad or mom acts with us or criticize, maybe, or judge, or make us feel a certain way repeatedly, then it tends to just become a truth. The child, by the way he's being parented, at that age we're sponges. So the child creates in conclusion, oh, this is how it is. This is how the world is. This is who I am in relation to that. Um, so like belief, general belief like I'm not good enough or I'm not important. Let's say you're a child and you want your parents' attention, and it's very hard to get. They're always busy. They're always overworking. Dad is not there. He's absent all the time. So you're trying to get their attention. You don't have it. When you want to play with them, they tell you, not now, it's not the time. So from the child perception perspective, the child might feel like he or she's not important, and this happens over many years. So belief like I'm not important is going to be formed, and now we have challenge in our adult life, but we still carry this belief with us that we're not important. So we put ourselves last, we put other people's first, we do things we don't really want to do, we don't prioritize ourselves. All of these behaviors are just manifestations of what we believe about ourselves. Um, and I'm not saying it's all from that one belief, but this is just to illustrate. This is just one example, a very common one. And I'm not good enough is another very classic one that most people have, uh, which comes from the same sort of criticism and judgment, and from early on in life, really.
Yeah. So if we're unlearning beliefs, do we need to then, as adults, try to form new beliefs, like better beliefs, or do we just have no beliefs? Like, is what do you think is the outcome when we're trying to unlearn those unhelpful beliefs?
A lot of what's out there is like trying to believe the opposite, like trying to ingrain the idea that I'm enough, that I'm good enough, and try to like overwrite the program or the belief, right? A lot of what's out there is try to overwrite the stuff. And for me, that's never really. I mean, I think it like different things work for different people. For me, that didn't work so well. What worked was actually unlearning that I'm not good enough, or an unlearning that I'm not important. And then when I know right away, when I know that the belief is gone, is I can say those words and not feel any emotions or sensation. I don't get triggered by it, or even feel good when I say those words. For me, that's a
Yeah,
gauge that I don't believe in them anymore. And yeah, I really value more like unlearning them, like removing the weed, right? Like remove that, and then what's going to be left is like you or space or consciousness or like freedom. Like so, yeah. I try not to. I don't add anything. I just remove.
yeah, that's really interesting because then I suppose if we were to try and swap a belief, you're just creating a different kind of reality then, as opposed to just being open to our actual reality, if that makes that's how I would see that.
Yeah, and even positive belief can be limiting and are limiting. I know someone that has a belief that I'm smart, he's smart, but it's playing against him in many ways because he's been told repeatedly, "Oh, you're smart. You don't have to work hard, or you're smart. Things come easy to you, or you're smart, XYZ." Yeah, but then when things don't come easy or things doesn't work, well, he gets conflicted about that, and he's confused and he doesn't know what to do, and sometimes he gives up and things like that. So even what seems to be positive identity or belief can be limiting. What happens with belief is the subconscious wants to validate them and prove them to be true. So when you believe I'm the best, then maybe one behavior it could make you do is it might make you avoid doing certain things where you know you're not going to be the best. So you're
Yeah,
not going to go do that new thing because you know there are better players or there are better people at it than you. And you're not going to be able to validate the belief you're the best. So you're just going to avoid it altogether and concentrate on what you're good at. Right. So
yes,
even if something like that, I'm the best, is going to, could be detrimental in this way. Right.
definitely. Do you think is this something people can do for themselves? Like you've said that you clear your own beliefs. I know I've kind of got a system now that I use that helps me kind of identify and do some work myself. But is there a point you think when people need support? Okay, here's my question. What might be the point when someone's like, actually, I need help with this? And then what might be the point that people can do things for themselves?
I did a lot for myself, at least. Uh, and then come a time where you don't know, what you don't know, and having someone else to work with that can reflect back to you what he or she is hearing in what you're saying can really be helpful. So for me, I did a lot by myself, but I also work with other people to help me see my blind spots and what I cannot see by myself, right? Because we're in the box. We really are in the box, and we try to see what's on the wall outside of the box. And there are ways you can do that, and questions you can ask yourself. And you can definitely do quite a bit of work there, but at some point, it's way faster and sometimes more precise to have someone just read the label from the outside. What are you seeing, and in what I'm saying. So it's, but I would say both. Both are very helpful.
Yeah.
Some people cannot get to do it for themselves, like cannot, even if they're extremely good at it, they still cannot do it for themselves. But I mean, for me personally, I have a good capacity for introspection, so it came naturally. But I think both is good.
And I suppose it might also be linked to our beliefs as well, because if you don't believe that you can help yourself, then you likely can't, and vice versa. If you don't believe someone else can help you, then maybe they won't be able to.
Hmm. No, yeah. I mean, there's nothing that belief do not influence. Like touches
Wow.
everything. So probably what we believe is going to influence the meaning that we give to things. So if something happens, let's say someone you know, you meet someone you know at the coffee shop or something, and that person ignores you, I might give the meaning to that. Oh, he didn't see me or she didn't see me, or maybe he or she's in a bad mood today, or that person is shy today, whatever it is. But someone else might give this meaning, oh, she didn't care about me. She doesn't like me. Uh, she doesn't. Yeah, she doesn't care me. She doesn't like me. What did I do wrong? So different interpretation for the same event. There's someone we see that we meet that we meet someone we know in the same place. She ignores us. Then what's going to influence the meaning we give to that is going to be our beliefs. So our beliefs can influence even the thoughts we have about this. So when we change the roots, which is a belief, the meaning we give to that, the interpretation we naturally come up in our head about what this means is going to be changed. So my experience is that when we change a belief, the thoughts we have naturally change, and the feeling we have obviously changes as well as a result.
Yeah, wow. That just really kind of like, because it can also, then we can create beliefs about other people, can't we, that just aren't even true. Like if you had that experience and then you're like, oh well, they're a bad person, or they're ignorant, or they're rude, you're then making beliefs about them that are gonna shape the way you then view other people. Wow, it's like really complex, isn't it? And
Hmm.
that's not, unless you've actually found out, like done some exploration, or even don't need to, like you don't need to make those assumptions about other people or that situation at all. It could just be, oh, they didn't acknowledge me and that was it. Like it doesn't have to mean anything.
It has no inherent meaning. That's
No.
the thing. It doesn't have any meaning. So meaning is
Yeah.
all made up. It's like we make it up because we anything that we cannot see is made up. So all we see is someone not seeing us or not looking at us. So what do you know for sure about that person or about life or about the world just because of you see someone not looking at you? You know nothing. There's no inherent meaning to that. Any meaning, it means, there's not like me. It means it didn't see me. It means even the one I created, they're still made up. So events have no inherent meaning, and that might be hard to digest for some stuff that has been very traumatic. But that applies to be true for pretty much any circumstances or events out there. So even very bad things that happen, you know, I don't want to go too harsh, but like like rape happened or this happened, you could conclude, I can't trust men. If a man has hurt someone physically. You could conclude that, but it's not true. Maybe that person you cannot trust, or maybe back then you couldn't trust men. But doesn't mean you cannot trust any men and all men. Doesn't mean you can never trust them. But maybe that person isn't trustworthy, right? Or at that point of her life, that person wasn't trustworthy. So can you see how this is all malleable, and this is all we can play with all of this, and that's sort of part of the process of actually unlearning the belief is realizing that they have no inherent meaning, and that's sort of one of the steps actually.
I think I've got a feeling the first time we interacted on social media was that you had said something like that, and I was very much at a point where I was like, "Whoa, hang on!" Like, I understand that we give things meaning, but I couldn't. I was still triggered by that idea, I guess, or it had such an emotional response, and I think we had a conversation around it, and I had to really reflect on it. Um, and it does really help the healing process to let go of those attachments. Do you think it's helpful sometimes as part of that process to give things meaning, or do you think that it's just, are we better off just to understand that things don't have inherent meaning? Because a lot of people, sorry, so this is the angle I'm thinking. A lot of people go through a phase when they're recovering, when they're realizing they've maybe been victimized, or they're coming to terms with their trauma, that sort of thing, where they feel empowered then by giving the idea, giving meaning to the fact they might have survived, or they might be have an opportunity to rebuild, or that they can help other people, because that's all meaning, isn't it, that's been added to the experience. Is that a bit like what we were saying about the positive beliefs, that actually by giving that meaning, you're maybe just creating a whole other narrative that then might need deconstructed at some point, or
Hmm.
unlearned?
Hmm. I mean, we could get into the whole spirituality realm, right, where everything has a meaning. uh, um, at least just sharing my own personal thoughts on this is that you know I overcame all that struggle, and therefore that means that I'm supposed to help other people overcome it. For me, that's one meaning, and if it serves you and if it resonates with you, take it on, of course take it on, why not? uh, but is that what it means? um, for me personally, I find the most freedom in clearing meaning altogether, so it doesn't mean anything. But if you want to give it this meaning, if it's helpful, if it's fun, if it resonates, I mean, go for it, right? But you get to choose. But I've been in the whole spirituality journey, and I used to think everything had meaning, and maybe there's a greater purpose and a greater meaning to everything, indeed. But I'm just saying, on my level at least, I get to determine that. I get to create the meaning I want for the things, for the events in my life, because it can be very limiting when all these supposedly meaning come up, because it's just another belief system that you get in now. It means that, it means this, it means that. So it's another belief system that you operate in. So you're not really free. You're still obeying by some belief system that's not really proven, or maybe some of it is proven, but and some of it is helpful. But for me, I try to stay in the middle. I try to stay in the gray zone of, maybe uh, staying curious, staying open. Uh, and maybe that's true, maybe it's not. I really try to stay in the middle. That's where I find the most freedom, at least.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. We've gone through loads of stuff there. I feel like you've shared a lot of really, really helpful insights. Is there anything else that you think you want to talk about before? Because I know you just said you've got another
Uh,
appointment. I'll not
yeah,
keep
no,
you.
it's fine. It's okay. It's okay. It's not a big deal. It's my mistake. No, no. I mean, I think we covered lots of ground. You had really great questions, and we could explore many, many angles of that. But no, I'm just gonna repeat what I said. I think that if you want to change something, you can change it. Uh, and even if parts of you disagree, we can get all parts of you to agree with it if it's something you truly want. So whatever you want to experience, I think you can have it. You can experience it, really. I think it's accessible. Uh, it's not always like clicking fingers, but I definitely think it's accessible. So that if you want it, you can have it, basically.
Yeah.
That's. I mean, I'm always testing my theories and trying to find one one areas or example where it wouldn't be true. Then I would drop it. But so far, that's my personal experience. That what I want to experience, I get to experience it. I can experience it. Doesn't mean there's nothing in the way. Sometimes stuff in the way, but that stuff
Was
can be addressed, can be worked on, can be eliminated or cleared.
yeah,
Because
like
ultimately,
I
I
think
think we're free. Yeah.
people, like if somebody has a physical disability, and I might think, well, this is just my reality. But then I suppose the power of the internet has shown us people who you might have that physical limitation, but if you believe something is possible, you can find tools, you can find support and strategy to like work around things that you can then put in place. That means you might not be able to experience something exactly as you might wish, but you can create something that gives you that experience within your um what you've been given physically, in that sort of way.
Yeah, and someone who gets his two legs, broken or removed might think that he can never run again. But now we see people who have no legs, they're running
That's what I
faster than
mean.
people with legs. And sometimes I think I say to my child that anything is possible. So it's not all probable. It's not all likely it's going to happen, but it's all more or less all possible. Because we could say, oh, you can fly. Well, yeah, we can fly actually. We built plane, or we can go to space. Well, yeah, we can go to space. So like almost everything is actually possible, right? I can't even think of something that's not. Uh,
So
hmm
clear in the beliefs gives us
hmm
that freedom to trust in
hmm
ourselves and to allow life to be a bit more, as you said at the very beginning, which I loved the descriptions, by the way, which was freedom, authenticity, easy, and relief.
hmm
That at the other side of these beliefs was all of that we very often really crave and would love to experience.
Yeah, I think the best space is the maybe. Maybe that's true. Maybe it's not true. That gets me
Yeah,
in the middle.
that's
Very
brilliant.
good.
Thank you so much for the chat. I'm going to end the recording and really appreciate your time. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
this was fun. This was really fun. Thanks, Terry.